The vending machines in 7 Days to Die are a source of some very wonderful and powerful consumables, but have you ever wondered which ones are worth your money and which ones aren't? Well, in today's video, we're going to be ranking all the candy and some other things that are vaguely related to candy in 7 Days to Die. Let's jump in. So we are going to start out with Sugar Butts. Sugar Butts to give you plus 10% better deals at the trader, and that means that when you sell, you also get plus 10% XP, which is really nice. There's no reason not to use these when you're making large amounts of purchases or a big purchase. There's not really all that much to even say about them. They're just S tier. They're just really good. There's no reason not to stack up on them. Next, we have Rock Busters. These are going to go into a high A tier. These give you 20% extra mining yields. Anything that makes me have to mine less is good. It's the equivalent of a rank of miner 69er, but of course it works alongside it. Some of these I have a lot to say about. This isn't one of them. It's just really good. Next we have Oh Shit's Drops. Oh Shit's Drops are interesting. They give you no fall damage for 6 minutes, and you'll never take a broken leg or a sprained leg from a fall while you're under the effect of them. For some players, this is like the holy grail of usefulness, and they always have a stack of them, and they will not do tier 5 POIs without them. Some people like me probably have never even used them because there are ways to get around what Oh Shit's Drops does for you. Most of the time when I take fall damage, it's unexpected, so I don't have the ability to take Oh Shit's Drops all the time so that I never get a sprained leg, for example. Usually I take Parkour, which has a similar effect of reducing your fall damage, removing the ability of getting sprains and broken legs from falling, and there's also Impact Bracers, and there's a bunch of other effects in the game that also reduce your fall damage. And when I'm at the top of a POI, I don't need Oh Shit's Drops to get off the roof unharmed, because I just do the technique I'll show on screen now, which works on most of the tall POIs in the game. Really, they're just kind of a good thing for new players who don't know all the little tricks to reduce fall damage and aren't the best at seeing little paths through POIs on the way back down that take a similar amount of time as just jumping straight off of it. And the last use case is just for people who constantly forget to not press E when they're using a gyrocopter. I've probably not done that since I had like 50 hours in the game, so it's not something I would consider to be too terribly useful for that reason. It's cheaper than a first aid kit. Nice to have. I can live without it though. Next we have Nerd Tats. Nerd Tats increase the shock radius of a stun baton to 1.2 meters, which means that in the radius of a block plus 20% of a block in every direction, you will affect zombies with your stuns, which pairs really well with the stun repulsor mod, which makes things fly away from you. Very good crowd control for stun baton builds. The problem is just that stun baton builds don't come along all that much. If you're doing a stun baton build, you stack up on these constantly. If you're not, you don't even touch them, you don't look at them. So I think for being so good for one thing, but completely useless for everybody else, that kind of averages out to another B tier for me. Then we have Jailbreakers. Jailbreakers give you a 100% chance to lockpick. The highest you can achieve without Jailbreakers is 60%, and I would say if you do have the 60%, you probably never need the Jailbreakers. And if you're using a strength build, you also do not need Jailbreakers. But if you want to do a playstyle where you never have to touch strength, and you want to open up containers without the frustration of lockpicking, stacking up on these can be a very good way to mitigate how bad opening loot can be if you're not a very powerful strength build or a very powerful lockpicking build. They're kind of like S tier for people who don't play in those two specific ways. Problem is most people do play in one of those two specific ways. But for everybody else, I would say they're an A tier. Definitely buy them when you see them. Next, we have the health bar. Health bar gives you plus 10 health. It's one of the 3 items in the game, I think, that give you maximum health at all. 10 levels of it, which is not insignificant. So that's really good. It also gives you plus 25% armor crit resist, which just means you can take a couple more hits before you start taking critical damage, which gives you abrasions, broken arms, things like that. Pretty useful. It's about half as powerful as the Enforcer outfit. Solid item, and it also gives you bonus healing to your critical injuries, but only for as long as the health bar is active. If you have a sprain, this is one of the few ways to increase the natural healing speed of them. Of course, that's not as useful these days now that we have the physician rank that allows you to use splints to insta heal those. So for that, I think I'll give it a solid high B. Next, we have hackers. Hackers just give you 20% extra salvage harvest with salvaging tools. It's the equivalent of a rank of salvage ops. Can't go wrong with that. A tier, just below Jailbreakers for me. Then we come to eye candy. Look, it's D tier. Let me explain. Loot stage is not that powerful in 7 Days to Die. Loot stage boosting items, that is. Loot stage comes on a scale of about 0 to level 300. At 0, you'll be finding, well, 1. You can't actually get 0 loot stage. At level 1, you'll be finding, you know, wooden clubs and stuff like that. And at level 300-ish, you'll be finding your level 6 drones, level 6 auto shotguns and stuff. Eye candy gives you +5 and +10%. That 10% is not going to have a measurable effect on the actual loot items you find unless you're already a good level in the wasteland, or at least the snow biome. It's only going to really increase the level of the items you find by like 1 point. Rarely is it going to give you a significant upgrade from just the eye candy alone, and usually you would have to be in a biome like the snow or the wasteland to get a significant boost from it, which means it's more of an endgame item. And what I see a lot of people do is they waste their money on it on like day 1 and use it before they open a tier 1 loot, and it doesn't do anything for you. It doesn't change the loot at all. Eye candy isn't bad, it's just most people use it incorrectly. Use it on endgame loot items in high stage biomes and you will actually get a significant loot stage boost from that. But otherwise, you're fully just wasting your money on it. Next we have covert cats. Covert cats are an interesting case. They give you 50% extra sneak damage, which translates to, you know, when you do a sneak damage and it says you did 2 times damage, well now you're doing 2.5 damage. It's not that useful for most players on most playthroughs at most stages in the game. However, it does have the unique ability on high difficulties with very well-rounded stealth builds to put you just over where you need to be to one-hit kill a lot of the really dangerous enemies in 7 Days to Die, like the radiated biker. Because most people don't ever need it, but it does have a very, very powerful effect for the people who do, I'm going to put it in B tier, similar to Nerd Tats. I would say it's more versatile than Nerd Tats, because stealth is a concept more players use than stun batons, I would think. And lastly, for the candies, we have Atom Junkies, which is just the equivalent of 5 ranks of the Demolitions perk. Obviously, that's going straight to S tier. That's a huge damage boost for something that already does an insane amount of damage. I don't even have anything else to say about it, it's just that good. Which brings us to the last 4 items, which are on a candy tier list, but it's not really a candy tier list. I just can't put the word drug in a YouTube title, and I don't want to cover them early on in the video, so I kind of just didn't address them, because that's how YouTube works. They'll censor you a little bit if you put things like drugs in your title, or if they think you're actually talking about drugs, and if it's near the start of the video, they're like, oh, the advertisers won't like that. So it's here at the end of the video. Ooh, secret drug video. IzPrebuilt was hiding drugs in my children's Halloween candy bags. Starting with, of course, Fort Bites, which give you 40% damage mitigation at the cost of a little bit of water. Here's the thing about that damage mitigation. High armor, pain tolerance builds, it's going to give you like 2 less damage because it applies after your armor rating. If you've already gotten 90 armor, this does very little for you, even on high difficulties. If, however, you're playing a light armor build on a high difficulty, or you're early on a high difficulty, these are very, very useful, because 40% damage mitigation when you have very low armor basically means 40% armor, and that's a significant increase to your survivability that you'll be glad you had. So for that reason, I'm going to give it a low A tier. It's just that the most survivable builds don't really benefit from this in any way at all. I think it would be quite good if they made it also give a bit of armor crit resist, because you always need more armor crit resist on every build. It doesn't matter how high you have it. More of it just means more of it. So it would be good if it had that, but it doesn't, so it gets a low A tier. Recog, I tested this in a trial run of this video that I fucked up the recording of. The Recog is effectively the same as 5 ranks of any range damage perk you take in damage alone. It doesn't give you the bonus effects, of course. When you stack it with, say, 5 ranks of Gunslinger, it does seem to be slightly less effective than those 5 ranks, but it still almost doubles your damage with them together. On its own, it does give you a full 50% extra damage. There seems to be some interesting interactions with it, with perks, but it still almost doubles your damage in combination with it, so it's definitely worth it. It's definitely very powerful. I double checked, and it's going straight to S tier, just below the explosives one for me. Then we have vitamins. Vitamins give you disease resistance and they cure fatigue. The ability to cure disease is very powerful. It saves you a lot of other drugs that are a lot more expensive, like antibiotics or honey, which is quite hard to find sometimes until you get that one book. With that in mind, the disease Freeze resist alone would definitely get an S tier, but the ability to cure fatigue being one of the worst effects you can get because it makes you take 10% more damage, another good one to be able to cure, and the early game ability for this to allow you to just drink any water or eat any food you find without getting sick. That's really powerful for some people who struggle with food and water early on in the game, or who just want to min-max their loot, right? Like they don't want to waste any canned food, they don't want to waste any murky water, they just want to eat sham sandwiches and drink water from the ground. Vitamins facilitate that if you've got it, so it is very powerful. So I think I'll give it a low S tier. Painkillers. 48 instant health is crazy. 100% resistance to stuns is extremely good because stuns slow you down and make you take more damage. Also, stuns have a 50% chance of giving you a concussion. A concussion is a really bad effect to get in 7 Days to Die because it reduces all your attributes by 1, which means it can lock you out of perks you currently have, meaning it could be reducing your damage by 20%. It could be reducing the amount of damage you're mitigating. It does so much. It's such a bad effect to get, and concussions not only prevent it with their 100% resistance to stuns, they cure it with 100% cure concussion. The cost is 40 water though, so you maybe don't want to take these on day 1 if you don't have a vitamin, because a vitamin you could just slurp up all the water off the ground, of course. Otherwise you're losing out on 2 bottles of oiled water there, and that's not the easiest thing to get on day 1. The instant health for me alone would be S tier, but all those other effects are crazy good and they synergize quite well together. I will always be excited to see painkillers. I don't care if I have 100 stacks of them, more painkillers. I may have an addiction, but they're going into the top of S tier. Nothing ended up on C tier. You know what? It hurts me. Since nothing ended up on C tier, but there's obviously a lower end of B tier here. I think we have to put Covert Cats in there, Taz in there. I'm sorry, they're good. They're just very situational, so they get a C tier. How unfortunate. I was editing this video and I realized at the end that I hadn't done Skull Crushers or steroids, so I can't wait to get 100,000 comments from people who watched 3 minutes of this video telling me that I missed them, but they're here, so let's go over them. Skull Crushers give you plus 50% melee damage. That is of course really good. It's the equivalent of 5 ranks of most of the melee perks in the game. The upside is of course that early on in the game that's extremely powerful. The downside is that later on in the game that really falls off in its usefulness, because it's not really the damage you're doing that makes the melee weapons a bad idea, it's just that guns are so much more efficient at killing. But since I put Recog in S tier, and that is only really useful later on in the game, I will put Skull Crushers next to them but below them. Steroids give you plus 10% run speed. They also give you plus 50 carry weight, which in vanilla 7 Days to Die really only translates to opening up like 20 slots. And they also make it so that if you break your arm or you sprain your arm, if you take a steroid, you won't make the sprain or the break worse and it won't damage you if you're jumping with a broken leg or punching with a broken arm. So they're very versatile, very useful. They only come at the cost of some water. I will throw those in S tier, probably below Sugar Butts just a little bit. Yeah, I rank even more consumables than 7 Days to Die in this video. Check it out. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one.